One other thing I would like to touch upon real quick is that we had a lesson, Who's Edom, where we went into who the modern day Europeans are in history and all of their conversions, right? We went from Genesis 27, where our father Isaac gave a blessing to Esau. Okay? And Esau was crying, please give me a blessing. Jacob gets everything. He tricked me once again. And our father Isaac told him, well, listen, when the yoke is broken off of you, Esau, when the yoke is broken off of you, you will have the dominion and you'll live by the sword. So through Israel's sin, through our sin, the Edomites gained power over the earth. Period. That's who's in power right now. They will be ruling in the end of the world until Christ returns. They're the rulers. And they've been following us from one empire to the next, conspiring to destroy us. We even went into Zepho, Esau's grandson, that's written of in Genesis 36 and also in the book of Jasher, who's actually buried right now in Cyprus, in Ionapa, Cyprus. I know. He also became what? He also became one of the gods in the Greeks' pantheon by the name of Janus. Janus. The Cypriots, till this day, hold Janus as one of the original, what? You got it, founders of their kingdom. Janus is a god who was Esau's grandson. And this is when they went over into Europe. And what happens? Not only did Zepho, Esau's grandson, become king of Cyprus, he also became king of Italy, built a palace there. And that's your modern day Vatican. It has nothing to do with Christ at all. So that's when Esau began to operate with a Canaanite religion he learned from Mount Seir. And Zepho is part Canaanite, Hamite. So Esau today isn't all European. I'm speaking of the hierarchy, like the high families who rule things today, like the Rockefellers and others. They are part Isaac or Abraham or Shem, and they are part Hamite through the Canaanites. And these are your rulers in the Vatican today. Also, Janus had a secret door at the Vatican where he would open that door, where Satan would appear to guide him on how to set up governments and to eventually rule over his brother Jacob. I'm breaking it all the way down. Now, that's ancient history. Okay? Esau isn't European at all. The original Europeans were Asians, the Japhetic people. Then later on down the line, while Zepho was setting it up over there, you had Amalek, who was working on in the Middle East to try to kill us coming out of Egypt. They were killing our women and children and elderly, being cowards as they are. In the back of our caravan, cowards weren't willing to face the men who was in the front. And the Most High said, write a memorial for Esau. Put it in a book that he will blot them out of existence. And those same Edomites that we're talking about became Idumean. And during the time of Hyrcanus, during the Hasmonean dynasty, converted into Judaism about 130 BC. From 130 BC, they became no other but, as the Josephus says, they became Jews in the Josephus, one of the first conversions from Idumea. And it wasn't just them. There were Arabs there also who converted into Judaism. Okay, that's right. Then you have Antipater that came out of the Idumeans during the 2nd century, which made the Herodian dynasty, which led to Herod the Greek, who was an Edomite from Amalek, who wanted to kill Christ at birth. And this is where you have your spat between the white man being Herod, living in our country, governing our country, seeking to kill the promised child who is our people, Israel, Christ, the child that came through the woman's seed. And they've been after us ever since. And it just wasn't them. It was the Arabs also. So once we fell in 70 AD, something happened. That satanic castle from Italy, pagan castle, Canaanite, Babylonian castle, infiltrated and used our religion, using Christ as a vehicle to teach his doctrine, this satanic doctrine that would bring the world under one religious order. We ran into Africa. We started scattering into other places. We went into Timbuktu, build our cities, the Israelites, until Arabs found us in Timbuktu, reported back to Esau, and began to conspire against us. Eventually, the Arabs and Esau together conspired to do what? To break down our tribes in Africa and others, and use systematic war tactics that would do what? That would mean in order for us to survive in our country, we would have to give over the, I would say, less desirable of our people, criminals or whatever the case is, to what? You got it, to start a slave market, which eventually became the transatlantic slave trade. Now, at first it started with negotiations of those that our people didn't want. But eventually it turned into a market where Israel would come to the Americas. Into the Americas today, the children of Israel will find our other lost brothers here, the Hispanics and others. And the Most High, through the Spirit of the Almighty, would gather us together in this same land to understand that we aren't minorities. We are, in fact, the true tribes of Israel, according to Bible prophecy. And the Edomites got us on one side with false Christianity, and the other Edomites, Amalek, got us because they came bearing our Torah. And then you had Ishmael coming under Islam, which is Persian mythology, another form of paganism. And they all surrounded us with their false ideologies, seeking to keep us from ever realizing that we are, in fact, the children of Israel. Now, here we are today, living prophecy at the end of the world. Now it's no excuse. We understand the liars, and we understand why they would lie. Who want to admit that they're not the chosen people? Who want to admit that they're under a satanic priesthood? So I can understand it. But now they must contend with something greater. As the children of Israel began to awaken, our prayers have gone up to the Most High, and help has come down. And he will guide us through this. And guess what? Satan, time has been cut short. And that leads us into our broadcast today. This coming Sunday, I didn't even have enough time to go into Ishmael. But you know what? I'm going into a new lesson on Ishmael, the Arabs, that have never been taught ever in the earth. This coming Sunday. And this particular lesson will be posed as a question. Here's the question. Is Islam Rome's secret weapon? Is Islam, the Arab religion, is that Rome's secret weapon against us? We're going into it. We are going into this in the academy. Islam exposing its true origin. You don't want to miss this. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. And I'm going to start off with what? I'm going to start off with the dark, untold story the Arabs have tried to erase. I'm going to start off here. I'm going to start off right here. Fair use.
The 25th of March was, as usual, commemorated as the day Britain officially abolished its slave trade in 1807. But how many recall that Arab slavers were the first and last in modern times to ship millions of Africans out of the continent as slaves? The Arab history of anti-black racism predates European anti-black racism by several centuries. The early Islamic Empire exhibited all the characteristics of anti-black racism. and blacks suffered the lowest form of bondage. Europeans took photographs of chained black Africans.
Now, why am I going there? Man, it's going to be a great lesson, folks, this coming Sunday. It's going to be a great lesson. I have to go into it. Because they playing us from either side with this theater. Who do you support, you blacks in America? We're the children of Israel. Who do you think we support? We support the lost tribes of Israel. We're not into your theater. Okay? Because we understand that Ishmael has characters too. Right? CNN. They coming into showing us what? People, hostages from America and all this other Hamas and all this from the theater. And we're going to give that context, not just today, but this coming Sunday. Even my lesson, the Sabbath, is going to hit it too. But let me tell you, it's all theater as far as I'm concerned. Because as far as I know, Ishmael is playing one side and Esau is playing the other side. The old good cop, bad cop scenarios. And try to draw us in as if they both haven't warred against us. So we're going to talk about that and more. Brothers and sisters, you all support this academy? Let me tell you, wait till you see this Sunday what they're really worshiping in Islam. They've been tricking us the whole time. Conspire against us the whole time. That's right. Social engineering, bringing people over, coming into our neighborhoods, disrupting our neighborhoods, folks. Disrupting our neighborhoods. They would hit and hide their hands. And as soon as we figure it out, they'll come with something else. And it's Esau and Ishmael conspiring at the helm. And I'm going to talk about this in a moment, real quick, Elder Lawyer. I'm going to bring you in. Right? We're going to talk about this. Right? Let's break it down. Before I break it down, let me show you something. Right? Because this coming Sunday, we also went into Esau being a Canaanite worshiper. A Canaanite religion, Moloch child sacrificing, ritualistic evildoer. And that what's systematic in the Canaanite religion, when you research it, folks, is causing serious mental disruption of a society in order to initiate, to get priests and psychologically damaged children into the priesthood. Their priests and priestesses are a product of broken family. See? Because usually Moloch requires sacrifice. But Esau had a problem under the Canaanite religion. 9 times out of 10, he would have to do what? Sever out the low in his society to sacrifice them to the gods. Be it a child or anything else. So he was losing a lot of his children as a reward. In order to receive a reward from the Canaanite god or Baal, he was giving up his own family to be sacrificed. Right? So what happens when he get in control? He'd rather sacrifice us than his own people. He don't mind sacrificing his own people to Moloch. But what better way to gain a blessing from the Canaanites than to cause disruption amongst Jacob, and by doing so, more sacrifices to Baal? I'm breaking this down to y'all, folks. Now, why did he have... Now, listen, this is why. Understand why they must have civil unrest and evil amongst our community. If you have a nuclear family put together, father, mother, it's a whole different mentality when it comes to your protection of children. You would very well sacrifice yourself, die, than to lose your name or legacy when it comes to nuclear family. So Esau cannot get his child sacrificed unless there's dysfunction. because that's how the priests were able to get their priests and their sacrifices. They would normally use prisoners of war. After war, you would bring in orphans and you would train them up to become like your MK Ultra soldiers, priests, or otherwise. You would train them to go against their own culture, to align themselves with the priesthood of Moloch. So they need to continually, that's right, disrupt our community to have more children sacrificed to their god Moloch. I dropped it in the academy. This is why they'll always destabilize our communities. You have to follow their religion. This is why when we were growing up, I never understood allegedly about what? About the children who went missing in Atlanta, about our people going missing, Jeffrey Dahmer. They'll make us think all of these things are individual circumstances from one nut job. Folks, suppose these things are ritualistic. Suppose they're really ritualistic and it's getting covered up. That all of these missing people, children, that it's all going into one source to give them power through Moloch sacrifice. And not just Esau, folks. That's right, folks. Ishmael too. They must disturb our communities. And what do I have in front of me here before I go into it, Elder Lawyer? What do I have in front of me? Brothers, y'all better wake up. Sisters, y'all better wake up.